Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Letter. Last time we made some kind of fits the relationship bar a bit. We've kind of made up with Isabella and more fun Luke interactions. We ended off with Kylie running crying, so we'll see what's Kylie is upset about. But yeah, let's just start. Miss Pink? Question mark. Kylie's sobs reach my ear first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watchers our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping her away, tears creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie, calm down.
What happened? Did someone mess up the picture that you were gonna show?
What happened?
Or something?
It's my friend.
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Tatato?
Yeah.
Great answer.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are gone, or are already gone, when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
I don't know.
Is she still there?
Who is it, Tatato? I swear, I still have that feeling that Tatato might just be the freaking, Kyoto lady. Another nod.
I won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her too. Tio Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Just a little childish argument then. It does sound kind of like a meme. Maybe it's not. I don't freaking know. It seems like some spooky setup though, going into the washroom. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'll leave this for the homeroom teacher to fix, but I just can't ignore the imploring look she shoots me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against before I ever think of having one on my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. New journal? Career Day. Luke was seen attending Career Day at St. Coretti High School for his goddaughter, where he met Rebecca again minutes later. A sobbing Kylie interrupted their conversation to report a friend crying in the little girl's room. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with a small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of children's spats. But in the end, this is all just part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? No music. You know, it's a spook coming. Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and rooms are lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of our foot against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, I'll once again be filled with people. I'll be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets and at the far end, heading straight for it. Lute stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn down the hallway, she stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
This is spooky. Probably to brace or calm herself, or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Yeah? Does that sound normal to you guys? Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms in my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the enduring things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
Bro, it sounds like she's laughing. However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Melody. So it's not even Takako, it's Melody. Not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fears of reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also made sense why she chose the loo furthest from their classroom. No, that she chose it because it's further from anyone, so she can kill you. Wasting no time, a gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door, with someone crying on the other side. My call is ignored as the cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me is this thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath and then I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps in the room. Her cries abruptly stopped. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and when I turn...
Kylie?
Cursed Kylie coming back into action. Just look at that, man. Look at that, Kylie. Honestly... She kind of looks creepy in her normal form. But this kind of suits her, you know? It's just a glow up. You don't like it, Rebecca?
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat, heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it's not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes, calling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. The tide that has receded and now returns to the shore with the overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago, of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There's no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a smile, into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, spending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck.
You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die.
Jesus, Kylie, thought we were friends. I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging. Mocking. Taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tip of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, tortuous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me.
Until darkness claims me and, unexpectedly, a note, in the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thicker stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
Save me, Lucas! My eyes snap open and the world shifts into a place with a ragged gasp. Into place. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
What are you doing, Kylie? What did you do to me? No anger. No vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily seeps back into me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. Guess I should take a little still image of that, just in case I want to use the non-spooky variant. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my inside in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break into a run. Brushing off an anxious-looking look Kylie gives me, and I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow in Lute's brow when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. Well, that was fun. Thank you, Kylie, for the fun time. The tremors continue long after my last classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Scales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. What is that, tea? You'd think being on my fourth cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort. Oh, you're drinking out of a freaking weird mug. It's a big cup of teas. Or is this the fifth? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse in my part, after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a centuries-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my Dawes books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb, or hell, there's even one story about a demon baby. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
Yes, she is. A terrible thing if true. Though that doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention far away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me on the screen once the screen lights up and my brow knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've entered this person into my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zeroes in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met this woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff, apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end she's giving it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and, well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere, the next, then somebody suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stops showing up in her flat right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone gives another ring. This time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello. Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It was a peculiar question to ask to someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious to where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore.
The local
stories?
lore.
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd.
So this is the 27th. Right. This is the day before Marianne gets freaking captured, dude. Yeah.
Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it'll lead to this. She must not have lived here for long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde mansion.
Oh
Yes?
my god.
Yes, that one. And, the thing is, oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this. It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things.
See things?
No, wait. It's alright, I don't mind.
There's a moment of pause before she responds again. She's right in that. This is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
No promises.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had it built. Up until the point it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished, even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know, there's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. Journal updated. Where are we at? Here we are. After the strange encounter at the little girl's room, Rebecca tried to remain composed throughout her day. As her classes ended, she received a phone call from Marianne McCullough, who asked unusual things about the Ermengarde mansion. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in light of what little I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's line about her intent, her interest is genuine. I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happened around her, too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
A freaking curse? Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusion to be formed with what we have, and if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to these stories, as absurd as it sounds. The very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. Also, the letter's fake. We kind of learned that. At least that's what I got from the hint at the end of Marianne's POV, so we'll see how that plays into it later. But it does seem the ghost wants some help. Cause I feel like my initial response when thinking the letter was fake, I thought, okay, maybe the ghost doesn't actually want help and is just baiting people and killing them. And we're just all getting baited by the letter, which could still be a thing, but I guess we'll see. Because the ghost is literally like keeps asking for help, so who knows. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay, as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappear into the thin air when I rush headfirst into Luke. Still here, huh? There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does that. Oh, that's funny. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
And Hannah.
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
I like that comeback, honestly.
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I noticed his hand, partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and toying at something on the floor with the tip of her shoes. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up. Kylie probably thinks she did something bad.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for a universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustrations have been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare at the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault.
True.
I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
Nice. A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he is in a lot of physical pain. You think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
That's great.
Tia said it'll be his treat.
Nice.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
You know, don't make promises you can't keep.
Oh, alright, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
Why are you being cheap now, Luke? He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Aww.
Well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared from the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salemwell this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Oh, just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds like the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back into my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. Two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and while Ashton has been my first choice from the start, even if he detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that, still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. I don't know, dude. I don't even ship Ashton with Rebecca. I kind of want to just boost the Luke meter. It's funny. I'm not trying to ship Luke and Rebecca, which probably won't even happen, but honestly, like, just the way freaking Rebecca explained it seems like it's the easy choice. Also, just to note, I'm pretty sure Ashton's gonna go there anyway to snoop some shit out, because we already saw him, so he's going there regardless of if we asked him or not, so let's just go with Luke. See, Ashton doesn't even go down. It's just goodwill, bro. We're boosting the... Is that the highest? It's close to the highest. Zachary's pretty high with Isabella. Yeah, but it's funny. Let's go! In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse, a sudden call from a friend, or things to work on. It doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to get rid of. I'm leaning more to the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me for a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
KFC? Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
Nice quip.
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it's a stick.
Okay, that was good.
You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
Freaking murmuring. To my surprise, his tone lets the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare up at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers, like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it, Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Tough luck, Ashton. Dinner dates. Easy. We're at Cesar's Coffee. The classic. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for the food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. When he tries. So as long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks, or we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort for this, to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though.
What did she see?
She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelf. After having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have a little talk about, aside from the frequent questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He is surprisingly versed with it that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing is already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably at Salamwell by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him?
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand still holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decorations they have here. Doesn't like Caesar butts? Who doesn't though? Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequented on the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, Your Majesty. Figures he'd lose patience again, having already grumbled about almost everything in his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the Bobfuck right behind us.
What the heck's a Bobfuck? God, why is this so good? Best banter in the series so far. Bob, how do I spell this? Bobfuck. It's a piece of furniture, obviously. Right? Bobfuck. Britain informal. A person with an attractive body but an ugly face. Never mind. Oh, that's so mean. It's basically like a butterface. Kind of. At least that's what they use, kind of, in North America. Bobfuck.
Bobfuck. Do I even want to ask?
She didn't even know, dude. I don't want to hear it. It's coming out of his mouth. It can only be either rude or offensive. True. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
Unlucky.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum.
Jesus.
A shame she isn't here.
For whatever reasons, that puts an end to that talk right away. Easy way to kill the conversation. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message, check if I were home? Meanwhile, Lute's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood? I wouldn't not believe that, honestly.
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, alright? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry.
Relax. I know the feeling, but 10 minutes isn't even that bad. If it's an actual, like, restaurant. But it is Caesarbot, so who knows?
When the least you can do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one.
Smooth.
You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea?
Because it's funny, and it's just the good choice.
Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be.
True. Actually true.
Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
And Kylie's.
He's not my boyfriend.
Come on. Easy drop. Those words come out with more force than I've intended. By the time I realize my slip up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. Yeah, that's just a misplay. Heat slowly crawls up in my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know. But in the next second, he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I've flipped a switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message for him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting and go after him?
Look how mottled you are.
Mottled.
Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute
Uh.
crush.
That's good.
The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush.
It is a crush.
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
I mean, Ashton would definitely be mad if he saw Luke with Rebecca, just for a reason she probably wouldn't. Both of them probably wouldn't think of.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with.
True, true. I'm on Luke's side with this. Luke is kind of based, to be honest.
Granted, I don't
And he's
like
not being
some
a
of them,
baby.
and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you.
Though, to be fair, Luke does cheat with other women, so that's that's not exactly good. Even though I agree with him kind of right now, but goes a little too far if you ask me.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
Ooh.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you?
It depends. I can see Rebecca's point. It's actually an interesting discussion. It's probably a mix of both, but you shouldn't be with them all the time, I assume.
Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
But it does. I guess it just depends on the people.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. The starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming. What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs?
Dozens? That's that's a lot of children.
How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said... And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
No, it's definitely not a bad thing to hope for.
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head.
Again, Luke's marriage is particularly rough compared to the average one, I would think.
Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I manage to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years. But what we have isn't something anyone can stop at. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger, says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet.
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20.
His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I've ever been sure of. Despite myself, the doubt resurfaces and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, as expected, he ridicules it. Restrained, low and rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us, amidst the murmur of people, and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much even for him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face, as if to hold his glee close to him.
Bloody bullocks, this is just brilliant. Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has for me are more words, scathing each of them. He's kind of being a ditch now. I mean, I guess it's just his natural form. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one to look away, focusing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won, until he draws a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds the gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realize that, if this happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. But the anger is there, ringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came in between us, I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it, and that one day, he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. I don't need to answer that. What right do you have? I don't know. This is a hard one. Makes me feel bad for not trying to ship these two. Ashton, I mean. What right do you have? I don't want to say that. I don't need to answer that. It went up. Full bar almost. Plus they dropped the best soundtrack in the game. You know, I'm on fire, baby. Dude, this chemistry is actually so good. I can't stress that enough. This actually might be the best chemistry I've seen. I love Hannah and Luke together, even though it's a hot mess a lot of the time. It's kind of fun, but this is crazy. Ashton and Isabella's chemistry are fun too, but like, come on, dude. However, those are for me to ponder on. This arse doesn't need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them just because he dished out some profound sounding life wisdom no one asked for. Yeah, that's a great response actually. So I look away, hoping my own silence would be enough of an answer for him. And it is, for a moment. Up until warm, furious tears prickle behind my eyes, stinging, begging for a release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. I'm already expecting another barb from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned. Yeah, this is what happens, Luke. To utter panic. I mean, I understand why she's crying. As someone who gets emotional pretty easily, if you were under that much scrutiny, which might have some truth into it, I'd probably cry too. Not even ashamed. It would probably have been funny if I weren't so irked by the sight of this delicate bastard.
Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry? Stop that right now, woman, or I'll...
Will you shut up?
Thank you. This is so cute, man. What's happening? He clams up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force in my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. You seem like the deer caught in the headlights, with the way he is making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that? If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth
Bag of
shut
dicks.
myself.
It does do the trick. Not to the effect I've hoped, but the moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away, and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when he found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it's appreciated, considering it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that put me in the state with a few awkward pats to my shoulder. Done twice, thrice, and another, until my patience runs out and I'm pulling out the book from my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It'll surely dent his skull if it slams down at this height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has a good sense to recoil, though. Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman. I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry.
Then keep your hands to yourself.
All right, that's it. People these days, I swear you treat them nicely, and this is where it gets me.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me, even if we're the only 2 remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards he doesn't say anything further. Daisy is his favorite flower, or one of them. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. A waiter serves our meal soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table. But before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. The words spoken in the same tone he's been using since morning, all under his breath whenever the honest part of himself would show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the man, I stopped short of shoving food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of the meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you.
He remembers our name, I guess.
Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
He spears a piece of his food, pops it in his mouth, and that's it. Oh my god. This is actually... yeah, it's the best chemistry in the game so far. It's so fun to just read. Luke is such a cool character. Now I understand that one person who commented a while ago that Luke's his favorite character. I didn't exactly see it yet, but I feel like if I didn't fuck up the interactions with Marianne a couple of times and stuff, it would have been fun too. He's so interesting. One whole day with this man and I still can't figure out what his deal is. But for what it's worth, as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. Alright, I'm gonna end it here, guys. Nice long episode, you know. Last couple episodes were only in the 40s. Hit you with an hour. Sometimes I treat you right. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Very fun, very fun. And next time we'll see what happens next. I guess maybe we'll see Rebecca going to the party. Could be interesting. But until then, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!